Family, welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia Springer, and I am talking to my Afro-Rakanu and Afro-Raikite family, my African Black family, regardless of where we exist on the planet today, regardless of our ethnicity. We are the same, we come from the same roots. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity, but we have seen that this world has brought humanity to her knees, and Mother and Father God has commanded our rise. And so I am contributing my part to restoring our identity. And I wanted to just read to you a little bit today from the Browder file written by Anthony Browder, right here, based right here in Washington, D.C. And the introduction to his book is by Acer G. Hilliard III, who I believe was one of his mentors. And he's an ancestor now. But it says, why is it that Black people do not work together in unity? Our impaired condition is due to a long term miseducation process, one that was not of our own making. It should be clear that the remedy for this malady is a unilateral mental declaration of independence. We must conduct our own critique of our mental diet. We must act as the designers of our own future based upon a careful and deep study to find the truth about ourselves and about the world. We must establish our own priorities. We can be led to act in our own interest as a group if we tune into and add to our mental diets the liberating thoughts that are provided for us in this book from the Browder file. No person or group outside of your own is likely to see our need for a collective rebirth of consciousness. Tony Browder, by virtue of his model as a thinker, compels all African Americans to take a second look. In your thinking and planning, consider the following 10 things which African Americans have either surrendered or lost. Consider these things carefully and realize that they account for our overall lack of a sense of unity and direction. And the first one is we let our names go. The first step towards disorientation is to surrender your name. Number two, we have surrendered our way of life, our culture. We have stopped speaking the language we knew, and we have stopped behaving as African people behave. We have lost our way of doing things, and we have adopted the ways of people unlike ourselves. Three, we have lost our appetite because we have lost our names and our culture. Even when those among us recreate our culture and present it to us, we no longer have an appetite for it. We have a greater appetite for the culture of people other than ourselves. This is number four, we have a general loss of memory. Few of us can tell the story of our people without beginning it with slavery. It is as if slavery was the only thing that happened to African people. Five, we have created false memories. Not only have we lost the true memory of African people, we now have lost a host of other memories which are totally removed from the truth. Not only are our memories of African people untruthful, but the memories we have of Europeans are also untruthful. And the memories we have about the rest of the world are untruthful as well. In recreating this story, we are not talking about a Black history lesson. We are talking about a world history lesson. African people had a major part to play in the creation of the world as we know it. We populated the world and we presented it with its first recorded culture. Number six, we lost our land. It now seems as if we no longer have an appetite for land. We lost our land in Africa, and Africans in the diaspora are losing what little land they once held. Anytime you lose your mooring on the land, you lose your capacity to protect your possessions. Number seven, we have lost our independent production capacity. We have become consumers rather than producers. It is a shame that we don't even produce something as simple as a natural comb. We have to purchase combs that are made as far away as Korea. Almost anybody should be able to make something as simple as a little piece of plastic. Number eight, we have lost independent control of ourselves. We have little or no control over our educational process, our economic situation, our communications, or our politics. Number nine, we lost our sensitivity. We have lost the ability to perceive when people are doing things to us which are detrimental. We accept inaccurate perceptions without criticism. And number 10, as a cumulative result of all of these things, we have lost our solidarity, our unity. When we lost our unity, we lost our political advantage, economical advantage, and even our mental orientation. We lost a sense of self and a clear sense of belonging. We also lost a clear sense of wholeness, continuity, and purpose. There is no amount of information alone which can correct all the problems I have just identified. But a large part of what we must do is to get our memories back intact and regain our orientation. Only then will the other things be possible. Information is power. Read from the Browder file and incorporate Brother Browder's thought provoking information into your plan for moving from disintegration to reintegration for our people. And then I just want to read to you um, a little bit here from Tony Browder, the creation of the Negro. Pick any name. Pick a name, any name, Negro, colored, black, or African American. Call a people by any name, and they're still the same people, right? Wrong. The name that you respond to determines the degree of your self worth. Similarly, the way a group of people collectively respond to a name can have devastating effects on their lives, particularly if they did not choose that name. Asians come from Asia and have pride in the Asian race. Europeans come from Europe and have pride in European accomplishments. Negroes, I am to assume, come from Negro Land, a mythical country with an uncertain past and an even more uncertain future. Since Negroland is a myth, where did the myth of the Negro originate? The key to understanding what a Negro is to understand the definition of the word and its origin. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to enslave Africans. They were the first to call them Negroes. When the Spanish became involved in the slave trade, they also used the word Negro to describe Africans. Negro is an adjective which means black in Portuguese and Spanish. But since 1444 and the beginning of the slave trade, the adjective Negro became a noun and the legitimate name of a newly enslaved people. Both the Portuguese and Spanish languages were derived from Latin, which have their origins in classical Greece. In most European languages, the word for black was typically associated with aspects of death. The word death is derived from the Greek word necro, which means dead, and is similar in sound and meaning to the word Negro. Throughout European history, the words necro and Negro were commonly used to reference the physical, spiritual, or mental death of a person, place, or thing. Historically, when the Greeks first traveled to Africa 2,500 years ago, the Egyptian civilization, get this, was already ancient. The Great Pyramid was over 3,000 years old, and the Sphinx even older. Writing, science, medicine, and religion were already a part of the civilization and had reached their zenith. The Greeks came to Africa as students to sit at the feet of the masters and to discover what Africans already knew. In any student teacher relationship, the teacher can only teach as much as a student is capable of understanding. Egyptians, like other Africans, understood that life existed beyond the grave. Ancestral worship is a way of acknowledging the lives of people who have come before you and their ability to offer guidance and direction to the living. Temples were designed as places where the ancestors could be honored, and holidays, holy days, were the days designated to do so. The Egyptians had hundreds of temples and hundreds of holy days to worship their ancestors. They had a preoccupation with life and celebrated the legacy of their loved ones. But the Greeks thought these Africans had a preoccupation with death. They regarded the act of ancestral worship as necromancy, or communication with the dead. Since the word necro means dead, another word for necromancy is magic, that old black magic, which was practiced in ancient Africa. When the Greeks returned to Europe, they took their distorted beliefs with them, and the word Negro ultimately evolved out of this great misunderstanding. Less than 300 years after the first Greeks came to Egypt as students, their descendants returned as conquerors. They destroyed the cities, temples, and libraries of the Egyptians and claimed African knowledge as their own. Not only was the African legacy stolen, but the wholesale theft of African people soon followed. With the birth of the slave trade and the creation of the Negro, it became necessary to dehumanize Africans and devalue their historical worth as a people in order to ensure their value as slaves. What was once referred to as a color and a physical condition is now regarded as an appropriate state of mind for millions of Africans now residing in America. So there you have it, the Negro, a race of dead people with a dead history and no hope for resurrection as long as they remained ignorant of their past. This was a triple death, the death of the mind, body, and spirit of the African people. It was strictly forbidden for Negro slaves to learn to read or write. Such knowledge was the key to liberation and was placed firmly out of their reach. As Negroes became educated, however, they sought to redefine themselves. The evolution of the Negro from colored to black to African American to African represents a progression of self consciousness. As a free people, we have a responsibility to educate ourselves and rediscover our African identities. Knowledge of self is the key to unlocking the door to the future. The sooner we understand that fact, the sooner we will be able to say, thank God we are an African people. Ashe.